Salutations. My name is saiminyaku. I come before you today to discuss Bill S.2433, which is referred to as the Global Poverty Act. I've included a link to the bill on the video description to the right, seeing as I won't be reciting the entire bill in this short. Instead, I'm going to touch on to some of the things that struck me wrong about this bill that I think every American should be fully aware of. It is of great significance, not to just a select demographic or geographical region of the U.S., but the country as a whole. If this bill is passed, it would literally hand over many aspects of our sovereignty to the UN. This is a despicable betrayal of the public trust. It is sponsored by our President-elect, Barack Obama, Joe Biden on the Foreign Relations Committee, and a majority of liberal Dems in Congress. As usual, the title of this bill is rather misleading. In actuality, this bill is a global tax, one that is intended to be made payable to the UN on behalf of all American taxpayers. Scary enough, this bill has already been passed by the House and is currently waiting to be passed in the Senate. If this becomes reality, the US will be obligated to increase spending on foreign aid by $65 billion. Not increased to, but increased by. That means on top of the billions we already paid into it. It is important to understand that this bill, if passed, will not only stifle our economy, but also throw our constitutional rights before the firing squad by requiring us to meet several mandates of the UN. What are these mandates that Obama thinks should be considered as benchmarks for U.S. spending? The UN-mandated actions of this bill goes as follows. 1. Creating a UN International Criminal Court, having the power to try and convict American citizens and soldiers without any protection from the U.S. Constitution. 2. Developing a standing United Nations Army forcing U.S. soldiers to serve under the UN. 3. Implementing a gun ban on all small arms and light weapons, which would repeal the Second Amendment, our right to bear arms. And 4. Ratifying the Kyoto Global Warming Treaty and numerous other anti-American measures. And what's worse, recently, and without discussion, the Senate Subcommittee on Foreign Relations lifted their thumbs in approval of this plan in the shape of a voice vote. A series of questions comes to mind after stumbling upon all of this. 1. How can Barack Obama and Joe Biden hold pride in this bill and still be considered ethical individuals of great moral fiber that only act for the betterment of our country? 2. What's with all this being shrouded in such secrecy? 3. What's with the shady methods of getting this legislation passed behind closed doors without the eyes of the American people overseeing it? 4. Is this the change that was promised to us? And 5. Are we heading to a rule in the vein of Castro, Hitler, Stalin, and Kim Jong-il? I don't have the answers to these questions, but I do have a theory, although rather premature at this point, that I will discuss in a later short. If you feel this is a great injustice being dealt to us and do not want Bill S.2433 to hit the floor for a vote before the body of the Senate, please contact your representative, local news network, and the mainstream media, stressing just how much you do not want this bill to be passed. Now, I know there's some of us who are not exactly good with verbalizing our thoughts on the fly, and this can be rather frustrating. My suggestion is simple in concept, but the actual act can be rather daunting to some. Write up what you'd like to say first, so that you'll be able to inflect on keywords to better emphasize your stance. If you're one of those who find this too arduous to bother with, I have written up a general message that you can use for this very purpose. It is located to the right in the video description. Feel free to edit or revise it in any manner that you like. The important thing is that your voice is heard. This is saiminyaku, signing off.